Welcome to the Asbbc, American-speaking British broadcasting channel, where we're continuing our discussion, How Cold is the Cold War? Today we will analyze Star Wars, also known as the Strategic Defense Initiative, which was a project initiated by President Reagan to construct a space anti-missile system during the war. Now to Angela for a recap.
To better understand the United States' reasoning behind the Strategic Defense Initiative, let's talk about the nuclear arms race that got the ball rolling. After World War II, a new style of fighting called limited war was first used in the Korean War and provoked more fear in citizens. And according to Ethel Wood, the threat in which the atomic weaponry could be used to annihilate both sides and even bring about the destruction of all civilization on Earth. The two nations continue to build nuclear weapons with the fear that one nation would strike the other at any given moment. Now back to Alice with a recap of the Great Space Race.
The US initiated the space race to stop the Soviet Union from directing finances to nuclear weapons and instead towards the space missions, which is when Ronald Reagan initiated Star Wars. Come on in, Mr. Reagan.
Please, call me Ron.
Hey, Ron. So tell us, why did you initiate Star Wars?
Well, ma'am, for a while now, and I quote myself, we are engaged right now in several negotiations with the Soviet Union to bring about a mutual reduction of weapons. But if they don't agree with us, we will have to rely on the specter of retaliation on mutual threat. And after careful consultation with my advisors, I believe there is a way. It is that we embark on a program to counter the awesome Soviet missile threats with measures that are defensive, but the best part is we could also intercept and destroy strategic ballistics before they even reach our own soil or that of our allies.
So, Ron, the purpose of your speech at this time was to comfort American citizens with the hope that the country could properly defend itself from nuclear attack, even though the concept was almost impossible to build at the time. But I read somewhere that the Strategic Defense Initiative was ultimately most effective not as an anti-ballistic missile defense system, but as a propaganda tool which could put military and economic pressure on the Soviet Union to fund their own anti-ballistic missile system. Is that true?
I suppose that was a reason I did it, but my intentions were just to prevent a nuclear war. But like, no cap, it would be pretty lit if it worked. Just imagine lasers destroying.
In case of an atomic attack from Russia, get down, duck, and cover. Just remember to duck and cover to stay safe from a nuclear attack. Now, back to your normal program.
Oh. Is this a little different to you?
Nah, looks the same.
Okay.
Ron, the space race was an indirect affair with the Soviet Union to decrease nuclear warfare. But let's talk about your direct involvement with the Iran-Contra affair. What happened and how was this linked to the Cold War?
Well, even though this scandal almost ended my presidency, my intentions were good. You see, Iran and Iraq were at war, and I hoped if I supplied Iran with military supplies and weapons, then our alliance would strengthen, leading a stronger role in the Middle East for the United States. Then, at first, it consisted of weapons for hostage exchange, but we later used the money we made off missiles to support Contras that were fighting in Nicaragua.
I read somewhere that something called the Boland Amendment prohibited the CIA and the Department of Defense from giving militaristic aid to Nicaragua, which was where the US Contras were fighting. Was this a violation?
Yes, but like I said in my Berlin Wall speech, we in the West must resist Soviet expansion. So we must maintain defenses of unsaleable strength, which relates to my reasoning behind the Iran-Contra, as well as my reasoning behind the Reagan doctrine. This is how the Cold War came to a close eventually. I was involved in world affairs to directly decrease communism influence. From my point of view, the Berlin Wall stood as a symbol of communism that needed everyone's efforts towards freedom of the prisoners of this disgusting political order.
Well, that's all for today, folks. In conclusion, the Cold War was cold in the sense that neither side directly fought each other, but that the high tension between the two caused instability throughout the world. Goodbye, Mr. Reagan, and I will see you all tomorrow.